Welcome to another Ultimate Guide featuring Eorzea's latest addition to the ranged DPS roster, the Dancer. The Dancer is able to shred through waves of enemies using its unique weapon style, the Chakrams. On the other hand, he also has access to various support abilities to take care of himself, his party and a successful dungeon or boss clear. The Dancer excels in buffing one party member, while providing some raid-wide damage and mitigation buffs. But even on his own, the Dancer should not be underestimated. The biggest opportunity of having a Dancer at your side is his possibility of taking care of the group and lift friendly DPS players beyond their limits. When talking about equipment, the Dancer mostly profits from his main stats, like all the other jobs do as well, so heading for a high item level while maintaining a solid weapon damage will put you on a good spot. After that, keep a balance between direct hit and crit for a solid DPS. As usual, the benefit of critical hit increases massively with your access to high critical values. With lower gear score, direct hit has always a bigger impact. After these first valuations, head for determination, being a decent DPS provider granting you a solid boost to your overall damage output as always. Skill speed can be ignored and should never be melted into our gear, but if you really want to dig deeply into these equipment theory craftings, the Balanced Discord or website is a good spot for getting the required information, as well as a fantastic in-depth answer guide from Illunavi that I will link into the description. But enough of that, let us talk about the combat system and mechanics of the Dancer. Gladly, it is one of the easiest jobs in the game that nonetheless makes a lot of fun to play and provides a heavy DPS and tons of utility spells. Furthermore, the benefits of a Dancer reach beyond damaging your enemies. Curing Waltz with a 60-second cooldown is an OGCD that heals an area around yourself and around your partner. It is not comparable to a healer spell, but nice to have. It might save someone's life. Don't be afraid to use it, you have the time during your down phases. Shield Samba with recently 120 seconds cooldown, thanks 5.1, is a 10% raid-wide damage mitigation for 15 seconds. You can cover raid busters, stacking mechanics or general phases where you will receive a lot of damage. There's no downside in using this, being an OGCD as well. Assist your healers and ensure the survival of your group. The highly controversial improvisation. It makes yourself unable to do any damage at all, while providing a buff to incoming healing around yourself. Also, for every friendly player near you, your Esprit gauge fills as long as you perform your improvisation. You can use this in downtimes of bosses, between phases or in critical situations where your healers would 100%ly not make it without your buff. And our best friend En Avant, a dash into our direction of movement. I love this ability. You can use it up to 3 times with individual cooldowns, dodge nasty boss AoEs, stack when needed, dash around your enemies, fetch your boss on the last seconds and gain a complete immunity to any damage. by throwing yourself a few centimeters too far at the edges of a platform. So much so good. When you finally gathered your comrades to fight the weekly menaces in Eorzea, be sure to choose the right party member as your own personal baby and the dirty dancing may begin. The closed position allows you to share your buffs with your dance partner and grants you access to your esprit gauge, which is filled with the aid of your partner. And finally to those abilities that truly convey the feeling of being a dancing job. Standard step and technical step, that change your 4 single target damaging techniques to steps, which have to be pressed in the correct displayed order to provide the most amount of damage and utility. Okay, let us come to the opener. In the very seconds, eye to eye with your opponent, before the big clash, do everyone a favor and do not forget close position. Your target should always be the player who seems to deal the most DPS during the fight, as your buffs are percentaged. During a fight, it can be advantageous to swap the partner, if your current one is limited by boss mechanics or his own demise. The standard opener for the dancer begins with a pre-pull standard step. Use your 2 dance moves during the countdown, hold on to your standard finish, drink a potion at 2 seconds and pull the trigger when the tank charges the boss. Standard step gives you and your partner a 5% damage buff, deals damage and allows your esprit gauge to be filled. Now it's time to dance. Use technical step, the 4 procs and technical finish as soon as possible. This will lead to a 10% damage buff to members around you. Stay close to your friends and finish the dance. The party has officially started. The OGCD Flourish grants us access to 4 proc-based combo abilities: Rising Windmill, Reverse Cascade, Fountain Fall and Blood Shower, as well as 1 Fan Dance 3. Any of these 4 spells has a chance to provide us with additional feathers that are used for OGCDs that damage your enemy. The next GCD should be either Reverse Cascade or Rising Windmill. They provide the same amount of damage potency, but be sure to be in melee range to use Rising Windmill, as its damage is dealt around your player. Be quick now, immediately use Devilment as OGCD to buff yourself and your partner's critical hit and direct hit by 20%, followed by your Fan Dance 3 as second OGCD. And now work yourself around the 3 remaining GCD procs provided by Flourish. Use Saber Dance as soon as your esprit gauge is at 80, you do not want to overcap. As we speak about overcapping, your feathers should also be used wisely. Each of the 4 Flourish proc attacks can provide you a feather. To use Feather Dance 1. Keep in mind that you can hold up to 4 feathers at once. Try to avoid using skills that may give you a 5th feather without using at least 1 first. Every Feather Dance 1 can proc Feather Dance 3 as well, so always use Feather Dance 3 first. You do not want to waste a potential proc on anything. Use your GCD and in between use Feather Dance 3 and then Feather Dance 1, if you already have procced Feather Dance 3. Do it the other way around when you do not have a Feather Dance 3 proc available. And always try to use 2 OGCDs between your GCD. By now, Standard Step should be available again. That should always be used on cooldown. Without our buffs or big CDs, we start into our normal proc-based rotation. Cascade to start our single target rotation. Cascade has a 50% chance to proc Reverse Cascade and will always combo into Fountain. Fountain has a 50% chance to proc Fountain Fall. We do like the 2 empowered versions as they can provide us new feathers. And always remember to use Saber Dance at 80 Esprit, or you might get surprised by luck that would raise your Esprit above the cap. It is recommended that you only use your feather procs during buff windows, but if you're not familiar with other classes, you can choose to hold 3 feathers for your own next buff timer, and only use the 4th immediately after it procs, or just throw them in as soon as you get them. Always remember that you do not want to waste a proc by using Feather Dance 1, when you already have Feather Dance 3 ready. Repeat your rotation, hope for procs and keep Standard Step on cooldown. After 60 seconds, your Flourish will be up again, and it is very important to prepare for that. There are 2 things that you need to keep in mind. 1. Use Flourish as soon as it is available. 2. Do not use Flourish when it would override one of your Reverse Cascade, Fountain Fall or Feather Dance 3 procs. To achieve both at the same time, we need a small amount of luck. But we're also able to get our downtimes using Standard Step or Saber Dance, the first one being the better option. If it doesn't align, use your procs first and delay Flourish. Work yourself around your spells provided by Flourish, use your OGCDs correctly and continue your normal rotation afterwards. Around 2 minutes after your first technical step, you're ready to head into your second burst phase. Prepare Flourish like I mentioned before, no procs should be overwritten, start with Technical Step and dance the HP out of the boss. It works nearly identical to the opener. Keep in mind that if you delayed Flourish a minute earlier, you now have to delay your Technical Step as well to make everything go fluently. If you decided to keep your 3 feathers during your downtimes for this buff window, your combo may be slightly different. So use Technical Finish, Flourish and then one of the 300 potency combo skills as usual. You may get a 4th feather, and if you continue the rotation like in the beginning, you might overcap. So use Devilment, and then if you're at 4 feathers, you should bring a Saber Dance into that phase to spend some feathers during the following GCD. Remember to use Feather Dance 3 always before using Feather Dance 1. So there's nothing more left than to continue the fight until the boss is finally dealt with. And while doing so, stick to the basics and the tips I have provided you. Okay, when fighting multiple enemies, you should make use of your AoE combo spells instead of your single target ones. Standard Step is good to keep the buff alive, but it should not be held on cooldown when fighting more than 4 mobs. If you want to burst down waves, you can use your Technical Step, Flourish and Devilment afterwards, like in the single target rotation. You may consider not using the single target procs from Flourish when fighting more than 2 enemies, but therefore use Windmill that will combo into Blade Shower and has a chance to proc Rising Windmill. Blade Shower has a chance to proc Blood Shower. Both of the proc versions have a chance to grant you feathers, which can be used for the AoE ability Feather Dance 2. These 5 mentioned AoE skills deal their damage around you, so position yourself right into the center of the mob group. And don't forget that Feather Dance 3 should also be used. But remember that it targets one enemy and deals its damage around the enemy instead of yourself. Saber Dance has an AoE component too, and it works just like Feather Dance 3, so use it as long as the most possible targets are available and try to save it for much bigger pulls instead of wasting it onto 3 targets. To sum things up, the dancer is heavily proc based. The job of your dance partner determines your Esprit gain, and luck determines your amount of feathers. So be sure to make the most use out of your procs. Do not override procs, do not overcap Esprit and feathers, and you're good to go. And keep in mind that everything is evolving around your Devilment buff. Fire your strongest skills at the boss, get rid of all your feathers, Esprit, and use the Standard Step when available. Being one of the most mobile jobs in Final Fantasy, positioning as a dancer is very easy. Your spells do not hinder your movement, and with En Avant, you can reach every desired position in no time. And that's basically everything you need to know for starting the dancer and have the time of your life. If you want to dig deeper into the theory, head for the Balance Discord into the dancer section. I hope you liked this video and thanks for spending that much time watching it. Keep on dancing, buffing and be the perfect support to your group. And if you want to be the perfect support to this channel, click the like or sub button during the time you spend flying off a platform maybe. See you in the next video, and until then, take care.